taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today we have another subscriber replay. This is Pootahead, and he is in his Omaha and on straight today. So he has sent me this replay a few weeks ago, and I was taking a look at it, and yeah, we definitely need to get this up on the channel because it was a spectacular battle. Not too bad here at all. So you can see, like I said, we're on straight, and it's the type where we each have, where each team has its own base and more or less need to protect the base, right? While capping or trying to cap the enemy base. If all else fails, try and kill all the enemies, basically, is the game mode that you're playing right now. So we're sort of looking around and driving around in the south right now. Just, yeah, I mean, general strategy on this map too. Just sort of going off to those islands right in front of us, right? Just to check out what's going on over here, see what enemy ships start popping up, and ideally in this situation as well, where you're in a cruiser, hopefully an enemy destroyer will pop up and you'll be able to get some shots into him and maybe even get him killed. This early on the game, you know, that's pretty fantastic as well, to get those destroyers gone early in the game. Like we talked about in some later videos about destroyers, you know, they're really, really, really effective in the late game. They really I don't know, come into their own and make a big difference in, well, 9 times out of 10 anyway. So looking around, you can see that there was an enemy cruiser that had popped up briefly there. So okay, yeah, there's a few enemy ships over there. Checking out the torpedoes, just seeing what they're saying. And we are detected, so we can see that. And there is an enemy battleship off in the distance as well, but he's out of the range right now, so not a whole lot can be done about that guy at this time. But again, still detected and coming in and out of detection. So obviously there's a destroyer around somewhere, right? So you'll recognize that right away as soon as when you're in your ship captaining around and you start noticing this, then yeah, obviously there's an enemy destroyer around, and then it just so happens that in this case also an enemy Karlsruhe popped up, so immediately start putting shots into the Karlsruhe. I mean, it's a tier 4 German cruiser. It's pretty terrible, in fact. I wasn't a big fan at all. I just pity everyone who has to boat around in those things. But anyway, putting shots into him right away and still maneuvering around as well. Because I mean, keep in mind there are battleships in the background, and don't want to forget that those early detections that went off. I mean, destroyers are in the area as well, so you can't see them. You got to assume that they're lining torpedoes up on you, or trying to at the very least. So it's always the best case scenario to sort of maneuver around and avoid those torpedoes, ideally. Getting some shots in on the Karlsruhe now, setting him on fire. That is fantastic. You can see he's down to about half health at this time, so that's really great. The team is also focusing in on the Karlsruhe, or at least a few of the ally ships that are around here, focusing in on the Karlsruhe, trying to get this guy gone. And you'll notice as well that the majority of the enemy ships here in the south are spread out, right? They spread themselves out in sort of a line. And while it looks fancy and cool on the minimap like this, I suspect that it's not working out too well for them. It's when you're this far apart, it's really hard to support each other. So it's great that they're attempting to do this, or maybe this is coincidence, but not close enough to really support each other, support themselves in this game. Did kill the Karlsruhe, Pootahead did, that is, so now that is 1 kill. Fantastic. Now we've got this enemy Isokaze over here, so alright, taking a look at him, lining up some shots on him as well, seeing which way he'll turn, and just sort of not really speculative shots, but right, you're trying to get shots in on him, and you know how it's like trying to get shots in on enemy destroyers that are pretty far out, but manages to get some good shots in on him anyway, nonetheless, right? You can really see the value here too of this cascading fire that Pootahead is using as well. So took out the engine, set him on fire. That's fantastic. Now he's more or less dead in the water right now, so it's just a matter of trying to finish him off. Hopefully he doesn't pop out of sight, right? That would be catastrophic. Hopefully as well, I mean, he'd burn to death, but never really want to take those chances. Fantastic, he's gone, and that is Pootahead's 2nd kill, so alright, awesome. Looking around at the allies that are, the enemies that are remaining here in the south, and there are still a few around. I mean, most importantly, there are some battleships, right? Like, there's definitely a Wyoming over here, and there's I think there's another battleship as well somewhere along the way, but anyway, two battleships, and I mean there are some cruisers, and there are still destroyers around as well. Yeah, there are the two battleships there. They might both be Wyomis, who knows? But there they are anyway. So got to take these guys into account as well, because you're only in an Omaha, and the Omaha has really thin armor. These guys, if they get a nice broadside into you, can one-shot you. So you got to be careful about that. And as well, doesn't have Pudahead doesn't have the detonation flag on right now, so you got to take that into account as well. Not to say that I always have my detonation flag, like on my Marblehead, for example. In fact, I never do. It's just sometimes when you do have the detonation flag, it does provide you that little bit of extra security and a little bit of comfort knowing that at the very least you're not just going to get exploded outright. So putting shots into the enemy battleship here, managing to set them on fire. He put the fire out, and obviously now any fires that do get set are just going to burn until the repair cools down, or the fire burns itself out. And just putting more shots into him as well. And keep in mind, even though you might not be setting fires and whatnot, you are still doing damage, and you are still taking out other things like secondary batteries, anti-aircraft guns, right? And these sorts of things can really play to your disadvantage, or play to the enemy's disadvantage later in the battle. If, for example, they're coming up against your aircraft carrier's last torpedo bomber squadron or something, for example, and it doesn't have that many anti-aircraft guns to be able to really rattle that crew and throw off their aim. So these are all good things that stack up and really play into the end game sort of battles that we face off and that we have here in World of Warships. So enemy battleship did get set on fire again there. Pudahead managed to set him on fire, so that's fantastic. So now he's burning away, and good time right now as well to take stock of the situation while continuing to put shots into him. Because you can see, at this point and where Pudahead is, he has a good cover from the enemy battleship behind this island, and a good distance away as well. So if the enemy battleship were to take a shot at Pudahead, most likely he's going to see it incoming and be able to take evasive action towards it. Taking another look around, a lot of the enemies down here, it does look like, are gone at this point, right? You've got the battleship here, who did just fire as well, but not a Pudahead. You've got this battleship here you can see he's retreating. He's trying to get out of here, trying to get back to his allies in the north and maybe defend his base or something to that effect. But there are still more enemies to the extreme, what is that, southeast. There are 3 enemies down there. One of them is actually the enemy carrier. Yeah, he's tucked away in the corner there by the island. You can see him now on the minimap as well, but he's back in there, and there is, I believe, an enemy destroyer back there as well. So we need to sort of get ourselves into position to kind of deal with those guys. Or, at this situation as well, you can start chasing down this enemy battleship if you wanted to as well. Because even though, you'd be leaving down here, the allies down here should be able to deal with things. The big sort of what if question by leaving your allies down here alone is, what if the enemy destroyer comes in and just obliterates everyone? So you got to keep that in mind as well. You put certain level of trust into your teammates always, right, when we're playing in these random battles, but sometimes there's just some calls that need to be made that you're just not willing to leave to your allies. You just have to oversee those yourselves to make sure that the job gets done right. While all of this is going on, though, you can really see that Pudahead is using the range of the Omaha to his advantage, like to the full effect, basically. Because this entire time while he's getting to position over here to the southeast to sort of deal with those enemies down there, he is still able to put shots into the enemy battleship over there. And in fact, the enemy battleship is down to about a quarter health now, just because of all the relentless fires that have been set and the damage being done over time as well. There is the second enemy battleship. So this is a second enemy battleship that we saw earlier that was down here in the south as well, and you can see that he sort of is retreating now, but I guess he decided to stick around a little longer than his friend, and he paid a heavier price, and you can see that now he's on fire, and he's about dead anyway. There we go. Pudahead manages to finish him off, and that's Pudahead's 3rd kill, so fantastic. Now that enemy battleship is gone, there is still the enemy aircraft carrier, and there's still an enemy destroyer, but now we can see the enemy destroyer on the minimap, so we know that he's not down here, so we don't have to concern ourselves about, allied ships down here anymore. Now it's really about taking the fight to the enemy and getting ourselves into position to, put pressure on their base capture point, or wherever the point on the map is where the enemy seems to be concentrated most, because frankly at this point as well, there are, 4 enemy ships remaining, so it's going to be fairly easy to take out those 4 enemy ships, hopefully, and just kill everyone. Why not? In the meantime, we're all working on those missions that were added in the newest patch here, and Pudahead himself is actually also working on the cruiser mission, so it's always nice to get some plane kills in battles here as well. I mean, I'm working on the cruiser mission also, and I don't know how many planes I've shot down, but I managed to shoot down quite a few in the past few days, so I'm slowly working up there, and I think at the end of this game, Pudahead finishes with 9 plane kills, which isn't too bad at all. There's an enemy torpedo bomber squadron, and I thought for a second that Pudahead was going to go in there and try and shoot some of those down and maybe screen his battleship over there, but instead decides to go off to the north. Not necessarily a bad call. I mean, you really have to go to the north to take the fight to the enemy, and hopefully the Miyogi is going to survive anyway, and then just hunt down the enemy aircraft carrier that's still in that corner. Actually, he hasn't moved. The battle started, and he just plugged himself in there, and that's where he's going to stay, and that's where he's going to die as well. So Pudahead decides to move into the north and take the fight to the enemy, and why the hell not? At this point in the battle, yeah, you can definitely do that. I mean, look at the points as well. They're pretty. There's a pretty good lead on the points. I mean, keep in mind, yeah, the enemy could still sink some of your ships and close that lead, but we'll stay positive here. So coming in and closer to the enemy base point, or enemy cap point here, and now you can start seeing that, yeah, the enemy destroyer is going to start trying to defend this area, or at least doing something. And we see a nice, really nice torpedo dodge there by Pudahead. I mean, those torpedoes just came out of nowhere, and Pudahead reacted exactly as you should have, and just spliced in between them and managed to dodge them entirely, so that was great. Putting some shots into an enemy Omaha off in the distance over there, so that's also great as well. Just doing some extra damage, getting some ranging shots in on him right now, just trying to judge the distance on that guy. And I find them, the Omahas as well, hard to judge your range on, and how much you should lead the target especially, just because they tend to go really fast, and it has a lot to do with the angle, the firing arc of your guns, and how long it's going to take them to get there, and depending on the lead, that stuff. Yeah, more torpedoes on their way in, and Pudahead was lucky in that he was already in maneuvers, defensive maneuvers against the Omaha in case the Omaha decided to fire at him, and was able to dodge all those torpedoes. So that was also fantastic. And there is the enemy destroyer that is causing all of this grief. So putting a few shots into this guy as well to see if we can't get that guy gone. And Pudahead also managing his throttle very nicely in that he's not grounding himself and just slowly turning away, always staying moving. So that is nice to see, especially considering how often I ground myself. There's another enemy battleship, so I think this is a Wyoming as well. So we're shooting at this guy, trying to get this guy gone now, and you can see he's more or less parked himself there. He's waiting to get some nice shots in on Pudahead to see how much damage he can do. In the meantime as well, the enemy aircraft carrier unfortunately has a fighter squadron right over Pudahead, and Pudahead's just making quick work of those guys with the help of an allied plane up there as well. Now the enemy Wyoming is in a reverse, trying to get himself out of this situation. You'll notice that he took a bit of damage, so this definitely was not the best call for that guy to make. Pudahead just starts putting more high explosive into him as well, setting more fires. And you'll notice that the fire that he set is now put out, so now we know he uses cooldown, so we can try and get some more fire set here and get some more damage done to him. Even if he manages to back up behind the island, at least there'll still be damage being done to him. And there we go, there he's on fire. Fantastic. So maneuvering away from the Wyoming and now trying to line up shots on the Omaha. Still being aware of the Wyoming though, because you'll notice that the Wyoming is still firing back at Pudahead here. The Omaha is off in the distance and really hard to hit, and he's in maneuvers as well, so it's not going to go too well with trying to get this guy. But we do still have the Wyoming to deal with as well. I mean, Pudahead did pay a bit of a price for those maneuvers in the middle there with half his health, but he still has the other half of health, right? So don't count yourself out until all your health is gone and you're at the bottom of the ocean. You can always do something. Incoming shots from the Wyoming now. You can see he's firing full broadsides now, and I suspect that he'd be firing armor piercing as well. If he knew what was good for him, he'd be firing armor piercing. But Poodhead's not really daunted by any of this, so just continues his sort of angle away from the Wyoming while putting shots into him, opening up this distance as well, right? This is important too, because the more distance you open up, the greater advantage goes to you if you have the range advantage. Like if your ship can shoot farther than the enemy ship you're shooting at, then yeah, definitely opening up that distance gives you more and more an advantage. And as a side note to that as well, you have more time to actually maneuver away from incoming enemy shots, which is really nice as well. If you can actually manage to get that pulled off, really helps out overall. So doing more damage and putting more shots into the Wyoming here as well, sending more fires to him as well, so that's great, because now I think he is burning on 2 separate places on his hull, so that is fantastic. If you can get these multiple fires going on the enemy ship's hull, you'll find that they will just burn a whole lot faster, and damage will be dealt to them a whole lot faster. So you can set fire to the bow of the ship, midships, which would be like near the smokestacks, depending on the ship, and then you can also set fire to the stern of the ship. Generally, those are the 3 places on a ship that you can set fire, and generally as well it'll depend on like the size of the ship as well as to whether or not there's going to be those 3 sort of fire zones on the enemy ship. So just finishing up this enemy Wyoming now, you can see the fires have gone out, so obviously his repair cooldown has been used here, because there were 2 separate fires and they wouldn't have both went out at the same time, I don't believe anyway. So he used that, so now we know as well that, right, he has a longer cooldown on this on the repair ability, and if we can just hit him with a few more shells, maybe set another fire, we'll get that next kill here, and that'll be fantastic as well. There's only 3 enemy ships remaining in all of this as well, so now there's only 2 enemy ships remaining, so not a whole lot of opportunity left to kill anyone, frankly. So you got to take a look around, take stock of the situation as well, and keep in mind at this point, Poodhead does not do this. I'm just saying this as a point to remember, but you know, when you find yourself in this situation where things are going really, really well, you know, make sure you take a look at the situation. If the situation calls for you to run off and go kill the rest of the enemy ships, then fine. You know, if you have enough time left in the battle to do that, and your team is in a position to do that, then definitely do that. If not, you know, don't chance it, take the cap. As long as there's enough time left to cap, again, right, you got to assess that situation. So Poodhead's coming around here. We know that the enemy Omaha is right there. In fact, there he is there, right? He was firing at Poodhead a while ago. Poodhead has high explosive loaded up, but quickly he's going to be switching over to armor piercing, and obviously that is the correct call in this situation, because I mean, it's in Omaha, right? And look at the distance involved here. He's right next to him. So clears the barrels of the high explosive, loads up the armor piercing, and starts putting shots into the Omaha here, trying to get some citadels, trying to get him gone, and do what we can to win this battle and get the 2 enemy ships gone, really. So putting more shots into the enemy Omaha here, manages to get a few citadels, and more importantly, manages to get himself a high caliber. So that is fantastic. Next salvo goes in and takes out the enemy Omaha. So great. There is 4 kills. So that's fantastic. Now comes the enemy destroyer. This is the last enemy ship, and this enemy destroyer sort of probably wanted to sneak up on Poodhead while he was killing that enemy Omaha and take Poodhead out. But the enemy destroyer had a bit of bad luck, and things didn't really turn out too great for him. And so Poodhead just starts putting high explosives into him right away, and now has earned himself a Confederate. So that is also really fantastic as well. Few last rounds coming in here from Poodhead and the allies he has around him. The enemy Isokaze just can't deal with all this incoming fire, obviously, right? Like it's a destroyer. And there he goes. There is Poodhead's 5th kill. Fantastic. Battle over, and look at these results. This isn't too shabby at all. 374,000 credits, 5 kills, 3 citadels, high caliber Confederate, 4,000 experience, 9 planes shot down, 183 hits. So that's not too shabby at all in terms of, you know, just overall results in an Omaha. That's pretty fantastic, actually. No surprise here. Poodhead is top of the team overall. And in fact, I mean, he would have been top of the team on either team, and almost doubled the experience of the highest earning enemy ship on the enemy team. In terms of damage done, we're looking at about 110,000 damage done in this battle. Yes, between those 5 kills and all those many shots and fires and damages done, about 110,000 damage done. So that is not too shabby at all. In fact, it was about 36,000 damage done in fire sets alone. Yeah. Pretty amazing. And you can see he walks away with well over 300,000 credits and, the 4,000 experience. So fantastic. Excellent job, Poodahead, and thank you for sending in the replay. And if anyone else out there has any replays they want to send in, don't be afraid to do so. My email is in the video description below. Be sure to check it out and send in any replays you might have. So that's today's video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it, and I thank you very much for watching it through. Hit the old like button if you liked today's video. Don't forget to leave a comment. Always love reading those comments as well. And if you are not a subscriber, please do hit subscribe as well. As always, folks, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.